G'day there, and welcome to the last session to review India versus Australia. My name is Michael Sheedy. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm with Tommy Flanagan. Very flat Monday you are having today after Australia have capitulated in Nagpur to lose the first test, Tommy.
Yeah, it was very ordinary, wasn't it? It was one really nice highlight for Australian fans and Victorian cricket fans with Todd Murphy on debut. Magnificent performance from him, but other than that, wasn't a lot to like.
No, not at all. But when we left you on day two, it was afternoon tea, and the game was somewhat there to be taken.
Yep.
Either way you looked at it, Jadeja had just rolled to the crease, and it was pretty much game on from an Australian perspective. It went downhill from there. It's safe to say.
Yeah, Akshar and Jadeja just put on a magnificent partnership. Their lower order, that rear guard was too much for the Australian bowlers to handle, and they weren't able to get the breakthrough, and India took control of the game and just completely ran away with it from that point onwards.
It was the two left-handers, which is a bit surprising given all the talk around left-handers on that pitch in Nagpur, whether or not it was going to be a massive curse, so to speak, because of the way they prepared it. But Jadeja and Patel definitely made the most of it. Jadeja with a very, very well made 70, and Akshar Patel just, he just has the ability to just hang around, doesn't he? And create a really good partnership. But top scored, his top score for 84.
And bowling all-rounders, two bowling all-rounders, both Jadeja and Patel.
Yes.
Terrific application to the task as those lower order batsmen. Maybe something the Australians could have thought about in their selection discussions is having a couple of guys who are lower order bowling all-rounders that can offer a bit in both disciplines, but the team we selected, as we found out when we batted, didn't have a lot of that rear guard action in them for this particular test match.
We were definitely 5 out all out, weren't we? Which we saw in the second innings. But in good news in that first innings for India in regards to Australia's bowling was obviously Todd Murphy. 47 overs he's bowled, 7 for 124. Jason Frazier, the only man to have ever done better on debut, where he took 8 for 216, if you can believe that, Tommy.
Yeah, it was awesome, Todd, and I dare say he'll be playing a lot more test matches after that. Frazier's career was short-lived after that magnificent debut that he had. I reckon Murphy will be around for a long time to come.
Absolutely. So India were bowled out for 400. They had a pretty cool lead of over 200 there, and the Aussies had to go out and face what would clearly be a very confident Indian team. It was a bit of the old hand in regards to Ashwin and Jadeja breaking through early with Warner, and we see it time and time again with the left-handers to Ashwin. They're just missing balls that potentially are sliding on as opposed to spinning. I think I saw a graph at one stage and it showed that Murphy was spinning the ball a lot more than the Indian bowlers. And if you have a look at the seam, it was actually going a lot more, almost like a doorknob, like in regards to it was just spinning that way, whereas the Aussies were trying to get more of that overspin. So it seemed to be skidding on a lot more when it didn't hit the seam. Aussie out to Ashwin, Warner, LBW again, just not quite getting the bat out in front of the pad. Any rear guard action we had was between Marnus and Smith yet again, but it wasn't to be.
Yeah, and those dismissals, Khawaja and Warner and several other dismissals, the Aussies just getting pinned on the crease, no feet. It felt like they hadn't really done enough preparation on how to bat in India. I would, if it was me over there, I'd be advising them to watch Laxman 2001 and have a look at how he deals with batting the conditions. There was no feet to the ball. It was either defend or just have an expansive slash slog type thing. I felt like they hadn't analysed the previous tours to India and they were batting like it was the West Indies in Perth. A little bit of research to be done before the second test, I reckon.
You've most certainly come out all guns blazing there. 5 of the top 7 dismissals were LBW yet again. So Ravi Ashwin taking 4 of the top 6 or 7 batters. So he just showed why he is one of the world's best ever bowlers in India, that's for sure. Smithy was left up the other end, watching it all capitulate. It just seemed to be one after the other, and as I said before, 5 out, all out. It just happened so quickly in India, and unfortunately, they dealt with us with a little bit of contempt, didn't they? In the end, Jadeja 2 for 30, earned man of the match honours with his wickets in the first innings of 6 for, and also an unbelievable 70 that we've touched on. Ravi Ashwin finishes with 5 in the second innings, 5 for 37 off 12. You make a really good point about the footwork. There seemed to be very limited footwork or intent, other than probably Smith.
Yeah.
And are we surprised? No. You made a flippant comment about, in Perth, potentially, that's that mindset, but it just seemed like we just weren't getting our bat out in front of our pads. And, I heard Finchy talk about it this week that, when they asked about Travis Head and not being selected, and he said, well, the selectors understand what they're doing. And absolutely they do. You and I are just punters here in Melbourne that would love to see Australia do well, and we're very passionate about it. But it just seemed like we just had no B plan.
Yeah, and I think in the selection we missed a trick with the squad. There's a few guys that we didn't take over there, particularly with the likes of Green and Stark and Hazelwood all being under injury clouds. It's left us with a fair bit of inflexibility at the selection table in regard to our bowlers, and it felt like we were short a left arm spinner. Matt Kuhneman's now been flown over there. But I feel like we've missed a trick with not taking a bowling all-rounder, maybe a Sean Abbott or a Michael Neser being on the tour. That may give us that extra flexibility there. But as you touched on with the batting, Smith was the only one who looked somewhat competent against Indian bowlers in their backyard. And you bat very differently over there to the way that you bat here. And we have had a couple of soft kills during this Australian summer with an undermanned South African batting lineup and a West Indies who just aren't quite up to the level of the likes of Stark, facing Stark and Cummins and Hazelwood in our conditions. But it's a completely different game over there, and I think the Australians have to watch what we did in 2004, have to watch what Laxman and Dravid did in 2001, have to watch what Rohit and Jadeja and Akshar did and how they applied themselves to batting in those conditions, if we're going to be any chance of getting a result out of this series.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just seemed a bit, so just watching a lot of the dismissals, both feet behind the crease line. So, they were actually being able to push back. And, if you look at Warner's dismissal, you look at Renshaw's dismissal, both feet were well back behind the crease line. Even though Warner was coming forward, his front shoe was just on the crease line. And, for me, that's not about summing up the length and picking it up. It just looked like it was tough work for our boys, and it is only going to get tougher. We kindly asked the BCCI if they could keep the wicket up, which so we could have a bit of a net. And surprise, surprise, it was there was water put on the wicket, and that was obviously shut down pretty quickly. Which, for me, I couldn't agree more. Centre wicket practice. Come on, boys. I would absolutely be turning on the sprinklers as well and saying, sorry, that's not the way we operate over here. Do you have any problems with that?
Oh, it's their backyard, it's their rules, they can do what they like. Could have been courteous to the touring team and give us an opportunity to get a little bit of batting time on these sort of surfaces, but I can understand why they didn't.
I can really see us providing them with a 5th or 6th day wicket at the Gabba on a green seamer, I'm sure, if they were out here travelling. But so we go to Delhi, and that is all that the Australians have to look forward to, because it is a very, very quick turnaround, even though the game did only go for 3 days. And we will be touching on the last session for the preview of the second test match later on this week, so look out for that.